Howard folk, my name is the Metagoblin, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 things that the Dragon Age games did better than the Skyrim games, and that may by extent mean pretty much most Bioware games. Now, don't take this game like too seriously, it's obviously just a bit of fun. We're just looking at reasons why people may say that they prefer Dragon Age. I mean, a lot of these things are just going to be certain differences that people may have just simply preferred. But anyway, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video, which shall be remastering Morrowind with mods and stuff, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that video. Anyway, so for the first reason, I'm going to just quickly point out that the dragons in Dragon Age are actual dragons, and Skyrim doesn't actually have any dragons, because a dragon technically has 6 limbs, meaning 4 legs and 2 wings, whereas in Skyrim they have 2 wings and 2 legs. So that technically means that all the dragons in Skyrim are actually wyverns. But anyway, let's actually jump into the video and stop irritating the nerds with nitpicking. The first thing I really like about Dragon Age is how the combat requires a lot of strategy and tactical thinking in order for you to actually overcome your enemies. The tactic page is it's a very fun place to be. I spent a lot of time there creating the perfect battle strategy to maximize my survival. It makes the game feel like you're playing a dungeon where, you're playing like a dungeon within an MMO, except that you get to control every single party member. It's almost like a miniature RTS game, which is very nostalgic to the first RPG games. At first, it can be pretty difficult to get your head around, but it's extremely rewarding when you get the hang of it and absolutely annihilate people with your tactics. In Skyrim, there's not really a lot of strategy. There is a little bit, but really it's all about just whacking a sword. Which I don't have a problem with that much. I just think that Skyrim could have done with a bit more strategy, because the game really just feels like a simplified action game at times. I mean, there isn't really any strategy even to the leveling process like there is in the earlier games in the series, so just one little thing. But anyway, in this tactic menu, you get lots of cool things, like you can set up party members to automatically heal another party member when their health gets to a certain percentage, or you can assign a party member to use a crowd control effect, like freezing an enemy in place or stunning them whenever they get a damage buff, or whenever an enemy gets a damage buff or something like that. And there are also these behavior types that you have to manage and get the hang of and learn how to use them properly, because you don't want your healers and your rangers just jumping into the combat and getting themselves killed, because you want them to stay back. Overall, it's just a lot of fun because it challenges you to think, and unfortunately a lot of modern RPG games, I keep saying RPG games, no point saying RPG games, is there? Anyway, a lot of modern RPGs just simply don't have this as much anymore, and it's quite a shame. For our third reason, I'm going to talk about the story. Dragon Age definitely has a much more intricate and interesting narrative. There are many moments that convey very compelling themes about morality, cruelty, betrayal, love, friendship, and it illustrates very authentic medieval politics. In Skyrim, you don't really get this level of complexity throughout the quests, apart from maybe Dawnguard. It mostly just feels like a typical action adventure or like a superhero film. There are bad guys, there are some bad guys who are trying to destroy the world. Let's go save the world and it's happy days. Dragon Age obviously has a similar scenario. It really is all just about saving the world, but the actual process of, getting from point A to B, the process of saving the world has a much stronger narrative, because there's a real sense of conflict between the characters in the story. You get a little bit of that during Skyrim, the Skyrim Civil War thing, but it really just isn't built up as much as it is in Dragon Age. Let's keep talking about the story, because one of the biggest highlights of this game is how the story is basically extremely customizable to however the hell you want to play it. There are multiple different endings which are influenced by your choices throughout the game, which means there's just a ridiculous amount of replayability in Dragon Age. So, in Skyrim you don't really get this, apart from maybe Dawnguard. There's a little bit of choices involved. I find it hard when I replay Skyrim to, I find it difficult to actually motivate myself in the first place to go through any of the guild storylines or the main storyline, because I just know what happens, and there's no way I can change how the outcome of that story. So it's just it'll just be boring to do it. These days I mostly play Skyrim more like a sandbox game. I just go around exploring, and that's why I get bored after about 10 hours. But Dragon Age, you can just keep going back to this game again and again and again, just like you can in Fable. and play the story in many different ways. For number 5, it is like a little bit of a story point as well. I simply just put down interesting characters. This is another feature that, you know, really makes Bioware games stand out more than other RPG games, because they really go to town on developing interesting and very human characters. For the most part, the characters in Skyrim just feel like tools. You know, like you go talk to this guy, you find out a bit of information which helps you progress in your quest, and you know, you wouldn't give a damn if any of these people died. You know, when characters die in Bioware games, it is literally heartbreaking because of the way they are written. I mean, you will feel empathy towards the characters, you actually care about the characters. They have their own history, they have their own unique, interesting and funny personalities which make you cry and laugh all at the same time, because they're just like people. You know, in Skyrim, mostly the characters just feel like, well, statues. Obviously, apart from Dawnguard has a few exceptions. For a 6th reason, I simply think that Dragon Age has been designed as more of an actual RPG than Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim attempted to be much more of an action game, obviously to converge to a larger audience, which I do like in ways. I do like that kind of approach, but I feel like it could have done with a few more kind of classic RPG features to make it a stronger, a more bread and butter archetypical RPG. So, I mean, like, at the moment with my Dragon Age playthrough, I'm trying to strategically build the perfect tank and choosing appropriate talents and abilities to ensure that I can maximise my chance to block and dodge and parry and stuff like that. I mean, I like how it takes a lot of time to actually think about how you're going to build your character, what stats you're going to put in different places, and what kind of armor you're going to wear. Whereas in Skyrim, all you do is press the right mouse button, you know, or the right trigger to block something, and that's it. I mean, I do like that kind of playstyle in ways. Obviously, some people may have preferred the more old school approach, but you know, because it's very nostalgic to like dice rolling RPG games. I just think that Skyrim could have done a bit more of that actual dice rolling to the game. For our 7th reason, it's very similar to a point I made in my Fable video, because in Dragon Age you actually feel like you're part of the story. It's because there is a history to your character and the other characters you encounter in the game. They will have personal relationships with you. This could be a personal vendetta or a hatred, or they could love you, you know, and you didn't know about it, or they like you, whatever. I mean, the main point is that you can actually feel angry towards other characters because they, for instance, slaughtered your entire family, you know, before the game starts. In Skyrim, there's barely any of this really, because you don't really know about your character's history at all. Like, does it ever really feel like you have friends in Skyrim? Right, if you think about it. I don't think Bethesda games do this very well. I mean, the Fallout games do this a lot better than Elder Scrolls games, in my opinion, though, but I think that's kind of a shame. I mean, you really feel like you want to kill bad guys in Dragon Age because they betrayed you or your friends and you want to get revenge. In Skyrim, it just feels like you have to, because you're the Dragonborn and you don't have much of a choice. You're the only one who can save the world, so you just have to crack on and get on with it, and people don't really care about what you personally think. For our 8th reason, we're going to talk about skills and abilities. I feel like you can mix things up a little bit better in Dragon Age in a certain way. I mean, even there are quite a few irritating restrictions, like if you choose to be a warrior in Dragon Age, then that's it, you can't cast magic for the rest of the game. So in a way, you can't mix things up as much as you can in Dragon Age, but in other ways, you can mix things up a little bit better than Skyrim. I mean, I really hate how in Skyrim, you can't really use a two-handed weapon and magic at the same time, because you'd have to keep switching all the time, and it just gets really irritating. I mean, in Dragon Age you can mix things up, so like you could be an arcane warrior, for instance, which is really strong hybrid mage specialization. You can cross a lot of these specializations in the game and make very interesting custom builds. Like a certain specialization may have a weakness, so then you choose a different specialization to counter that weakness, and there's a lot of great builds that you can make. But in Skyrim, there's only a certain amount of builds you can make, because of this left and right hand mechanic. It kind of restricts the customizability a lot in the games, and I didn't really like it. I like in Oblivion how you can have a one-handed weapon and a shield, or a big two-handed warhammer, but also cast magic, because it was like a separate thing. Like you'd point your sword at an enemy, and the magic would go through the sword, you know, that kind of thing. So I hated the left hand right hand thing, unfortunately. For number 9, we're going to talk about simply morality. We talked about this in the Fable video, and I essentially said that you can't be that evil in Skyrim, and somebody criticised me by saying that, what, destroying the sun isn't evil enough? And you know, I kind of took the point. Destroying the sun in Skyrim is a pretty evil thing to do, but when playing Skyrim, do you really, actually feel evil? Like, I mean, especially excluding Dawnguard, there aren't many moments where you actually feel repulsed by your own actions. Like, you might do at certain points of a Dark Brotherhood, but I'm not just talking about murdering people, I'm talking about committing an entire race to virtual genocide, like you can do in Dragon Age. I mean, you literally cannot actually wipe out all the werewolves if you decide to. The evilness in Dragon Age it's much bigger and just generally more sinister. Like, you can literally destroy people's lives and torture them to death. A lot of it isn't just physical evilness, just go around butchering people up and stuff like it is in Skyrim. You can commit evil deeds just by talking and making decisions, like properly manipulating people and just giving them, just generally making their day a very bad day. So lastly, I'm going to talk about something I really hate about Skyrim, to be honest, and that is the enemy scaling thing. It's basically just a mechanic for babies, innit? I also hate it about Oblivion as well. I mean, I prefer a system where if I encounter an enemy in the world that is way too high level for me, because this area is too high level for me, then I need to go to a different area and build up my character, become stronger, before I go to that more difficult area. And it's especially fun when you build your character and your combat strategy so well, because you played the game that much, and you just understand how the game works. You can literally go and take on higher difficulty content when it's like way too early for you to be there, and that provides like a really good challenge, to the game. It's just something I prefer, really. Like, it's just that challenge. I mean, for instance, when I was back in the day, and I was probably like bloody 13 or something, I played this game called Two Worlds. Not the most popular RPG in the game, but I completed the game and I chose the wrong option at the end, and I got a really depressing, crappy ending where I just died. which was quality, so I decided to replay the game. But what I did is I completed the game at like level 15 when I really should have been level 30. I know that should have been like double my level basically, but I used like a really powerful trap creating build to basically completely destroy other bosses in the game, and it just felt satisfying that I'd come up with this unique strategy to beat the game, which times it was more like exploiting. But rather than the game like scaling down to me and basically like giving me a helping hand and carrying me to defeat the game, I came up with a crazy, unique, strategic way to defeat the game instead. Anyway, let's end this complete nerdiness and discussion of complete nonsense. Right now on the screen you're probably going to see very similar videos to this one, so be sure to check them out. I compare a lot of games like this, if you're new to the channel, against other games and stuff, and we also have a lot of remaster mod tutorials to remaster a lot of old games coming very soon. Like for instance Morrowind is probably going to be the next video I'm going to make. Anyway, my name is the Metagoblin, and until my next video, ciao.